Is this the golden era of Yieldmax's MSTY? What is the future prospects of distributions and the implied volatility of Bitcoin, which then in turn affects MSTY, all the derivatives of MicroStrategy, and also all the derivatives of Bitcoin. So we're going to go over that today, get kind of a mini and a macro, the short-term and the long-term prospects, and what we can expect from the volatility and the distributions of MSTY going forward. So when we look at this year and the remaining months that we have ahead of us, I want to go over some of the average returns, and we can get an idea of what the volatility will be near the end of the year. So I'm looking primarily at Q4 because historically that's been the months and the quarter where Bitcoin has made some moves upward and had bigger gains. So when you look at July, the current month we're in, and we've seen an improvement, right? So historically, the average is 7.56% in monthly returns. It's been an okay month. So how does August fare? It drops down a little bit. Historically, it's 1.75%. And then September, the average is negative 3.77%. But then when we hit October, this is when we could see and kind of expect some more capital gains with Bitcoin, and in turn, MicroStrategy and MSTY. The average return in October is plus 21.89%. November plus 46%. December is also positive 4.75%. So as we can see, kind of what happened last year. We got those big distributions, volatility went up. So what we can expect is hopefully in Q4 of this year, we will see a rise in Bitcoin price. We will see also a rise in volatility, and the distributions will be larger, similar to what happened last year. Unless, of course, the cycle has changed. We have to wait and see how much the cycle has changed. Has it shifted a month or two? We're going to find out soon enough. But yeah, it looks good for the end of this year, which is kind of what I was expecting. That's going by data, historical data. However, moving forward, into the coming years, we can expect the volatility of Bitcoin, and then by extension, MSTY and all the options funds tied to it. And yes, that would include, your YBTCs, your BTCIs, those distributions, because of the volatility of the underlying asset, could be affected and could drop. Now, this is from Fidelity. I want to briefly go over this article that Fidelity wrote, and it's talking about Bitcoin's volatility. They sourced this from Bloomberg from 2020 to 2024. The 1 year volatility of Bitcoin was 72.9%, and that's well above some of the other equities and some of the other stocks that are available in the market. When we look at small cap is actually higher. It's a higher volatility than the S&P 500. So small cap 25.1% for 1 year volatility, and the S&P 500 19.6% for the 1 year volatility. So yeah, we can expect it to go down. But now, why is that? Why would we expect the volatility of Bitcoin to go down, and then by extension, strategy and all the derivatives and all the options funds? And when we look at the market caps of Bitcoin, gold, equities, bonds, and we make a comparison, the market cap of Bitcoin is quite a bit smaller than these other assets. Like gold is 22 trillion, Bitcoin is 1.8 trillion. Now, I would expect Bitcoin, I think the market cap will increase and become bigger than gold in the future. So we could, possibly expect a 10, 15x minimum in the market cap of Bitcoin. Equities is 125 trillion, bonds is 320 trillion. So you see this small market cap. And when you have inflows and outflows of these funds into smaller market caps, that creates more volatility. And that's what's going on here. The reason why, as Fidelity brought out, the volatility of Bitcoin is going to go down in the future and over time is because the market cap is going to get larger. As Bitcoin kind of catches up to the market cap of gold and possibly surpasses them in the future, we can expect that volatility to come down because of the increased market cap. So I want to go over the current implied volatility of Bitcoin. It is 38.1, but MicroStrategy is higher, of course. MSTR current volatility is 48.6. When we compare that to SPY, it's 13.5. So even though the volatility can go down in the future and over time, it's still well above many of these other equities and many of these other ETFs that you can buy into. And MSTR is still more volatile than Bitcoin's, just spot Bitcoin. There are some positives there. And the average stock, it may fall within the 20 to 30 implied volatility range. So even if it dropped a little bit, it still would be very competitive when it comes to the implied volatility and therefore, the possible distributions in something like an options fund. So it's not going to happen overnight. This is not something that, I need to drop MSTY immediately or it's going to be a former shell of itself in 2 years. I'm not necessarily saying that, but it is coming down over time because of the market cap going up over time. But there's some tailwinds for MSTY and for MSTR. One of them, the possible inclusion into the S&P 500, Sailor tapping into that huge market cap of bonds and fixed income. As we know, the 8 to 10% that is offered through the preferred stock is just really outperforming the traditional fixed income and bond market, and bonds cannot compete, and the Fed is expected to cut rates. I see more money flowing into these preferred stock that Sailor and Strategy are releasing and making available to investors, and it's just going to be money funneled into MSTR. So that's a positive thing to look forward to. And even though Bitcoin, its volatility is going to go down over time, MicroStrategy is still a leveraged play on it. All right, so it's still going to be higher than native Bitcoin. And also, we're going to see capital gains as that market cap goes up. Remember, we have a limited supply, and it really feels like we're hitting that supply crunch soon. And as we saw, Bitcoin hit its all-time high recently. So we should see a lot of capital gains going into the future, even if volatility drops. And that is all part of it. I believe capital gains are really important when it comes to things such as options funds. One of the main reasons I say that is if you don't have capital gains to go along with it, the volatility, what you're going to do is you're going to see that NAV erosion, and it's going to be really tax inefficient. And the more money that you have in these funds, the worse it is for you, as a tax wise, unless you're in some tax favorable environment. So, but we want to see the capital gains, so that's good. We're going to see, some capital gains. So, is this the golden era? Yeah, I think, the end of this year, it may be, like the last great time where we're just printing money. MSTY is just printing money. Is this going to happen, next year? Are we going to see a huge drop off? Not necessarily, but I think over time we can expect it, that volatility to come down, and along with it, the distributions. And, that's a bit sobering to think about, but it's not like this is going to happen overnight. I feel like this is something that we can monitor. We can monitor the volatility and the distributions and be ready to pivot at any moment. There's always going to be other opportunities. There's going to be other options funds, or funds that pay you, such as Roundhill, and we're always going to have some other place to put our money if it comes to that. If the volatility drops too much and we feel like there's a better opportunity out there. So that's my job. I'm going to be looking for other opportunities in the future. I think MSTY is good for the immediate future, and I think this year could possibly be one of the best years that we have, like Q4 at the end of the year. Of course, always depending on the cycle. So yeah, there's some good things short term. Long term, we might have to keep looking and look at other opportunities that come up and other ways to make passive income off of options funds.